I cannot believe I've actually managed to get 100 subscribers. So this video is for all of you. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I am a geek. You are watching Kevin the Geek. And this is a very, very special ranking today. So recently I managed to get over 100 subscribers. And considering I started this, maybe 3 months ago, this kind of little journey, I am shocked that I got here. I never expected it. So a massive, massive thank you to each and every single one of you. If you are new to the channel for the first time, please do consider subscribing and make sure you smash a like on the video and drop some comments down below. But as a way of thanking you for helping me get to 100 subscribers, I wanted to let you guys have a say in what you wanted me to do next. So I put out a little poll, and you guys want me to do a ranking of the best season finales for Doctor Who. I'm not going to lie, this one took a bit of rewatching, so apologies if it's a little bit later coming out than I had initially thought I would hopefully manage to do. But in the end, you know what? I decided I'm not going to do the top 10. I'm going to do all of them. I'm going to do every single finale for Doctor Who since the revival in 2005. Now, what I will just quickly clarify, I do not consider the mini-series as part of this. So the specials for David Tennant when he was leaving, ending with The End of Time, that's not on this list. The 50th anniversary specials, not on this list. And the most recent ones with, Legend of the Sea Devils and the Paradoctor for Jodie Whittaker's ending, they're not in this. These are literally the actual seasons themselves. So we have 13 to get through. Let's get started. In number 13, The Vanquishers from season 13, aka Flux. I think we kind of knew that maybe one or two of the Jodie Whittaker's ones would probably end up right towards the bottom on this list. And Flux, for me, the biggest reason I'm putting this at the bottom is because you have a setup that could have been so good, and I was so excited when I learned of doing this sort of serialized series as opposed to more episodic. The problem with Flux as a general series wasn't great. The whole story was just a weird mismatch, and it seemed to be that they were kind of half doing a serialized setup and then half an episodic, and they just didn't merge well. And so the actual ending as the conclusion to the series, it was just very badly handled. In number 12, from series 11, Battle of Ranskor Av Kolos. This episode has the distinction for being as forgettable an episode as the actual name of the title. I literally had to write this down and I just don't remember it. It's just one of those. Like, the only two things I really kind of remembered from this, going into this, was the fact that the villain from the premiere, Tim Shaw, comes back and has a bit of a showdown with Graham after Tim Shaw had basically led to the death of Grace in the premiere. And you thought that Graham was going to exact his revenge as a result, and then ultimately didn't. Which, plus points for Graham for that, but as an overall satisfying conclusion to the series, just no. Number 11, from Series 9, Hell Bent. This is a tricky one because some people consider Heaven Sent to be the first part of the two-part finale. Me, I don't. I really consider that as its own separate entity. And Hellbent is its own separate story and therefore its own separate finale. And maybe if I had included Heaven Sent, it might have been slightly higher up on this list, because of course Heaven Sent is just a wonderful piece of entertainment. But Hellbent, you try and do the conclusion to the hybrid villain thing that they were setting up, and okay, on one hand I get where they were going with it, making it about the Doctor and his companion and how they can be kind of dangerous together. It made sense, but the whole hodgepodge nature of it, and of course I absolutely hate the fact that they make the Doctor a murderer, technically. You know, okay, the General didn't actually die, but he forced him to regenerate, and yeah, really wasn't a fan of that episode. Number 10. From season 12. The Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children. Again, I think a lot of people were expecting this one to be right down towards the bottom as well, and I would say a lot of it has to do with the kind of Timeless Children thing that Chris Chibnall did. I think the only thing that elevates this a bit higher than the other three so far at the bottom is because of the unique idea of having the Cybermen merge with Time Lords and making them regenerate. Because that was a unique kind of idea. And the Master was good. But as a satisfying conclusion... Number 9. From Series 6. The Wedding of River Song. Now, from here on out, I would say that we get away from the previous 4, which were bad finales. And from here on out, they are acceptable to top of the list. And the Wedding of River Song, I think it has to come down. When you think about the start of this season, with the whole thing about the Doctor maybe having been killed in the future, and you've got this whole running mystery running throughout the season, it had a lot of potential and a lot going for it. The ending, for me, just felt a little bit lackluster. That's the main thing. And maybe it has something to do as well with the whole fact that the season got split into kind of 2 sections. I think that didn't really help matters either. But overall, it weren't bad. It was just alright. Number 8. From Series 7. The Name of the Doctor. So, this one, again, kind of similar to the last one. It had a lot of running, ongoing stuff that was kind of being built up. And it was the whole mystery around Clara, which had started with the first episode of the season, The Asylum of the Daleks, and then continued for the second half of the season, going from the Snowmen onwards. And it had a lot of potential, and there was a lot of good things to do with it. Richard Grant was brilliant as the Great Intelligence. I do really love him. He had such a menacing quality to him. But overall, I think because of the fact that it kind of left you having a few more questions to be asked, and the whole thing that you were left on a big cliffhanger with the introduction of John Hurt as the Doctor, that for me is what stops it from it being a little bit higher on this list. Number 7. From Season 5. The Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. Now this is an example of how a 2-parter story can be so completely opposite to each other. Because I really love The Pandorica Opens. The Big Bang, not so much. It again had its moments and it had its ideas, but Ultimately, I think because the first episode was so good, it needed another really strong episode to kind of match up with that level. And I just think they kind of ran out of steam a little bit with the follow-up part. I did really enjoy the story and how they kind of played on everything that you'd had coming up throughout the season. Had a lot of good moments, but overall, it was the second part that let it down. Number 6, from Series 3, The Sound of Drums and The Last of the Time Lords. Now, most people consider this a 3-part story with Utopia and then Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. For me, I don't. I consider this like Heaven Sent and Hell Bent. Utopia is enough of an episode in its own right to be a setup for the finale, but I don't consider it technically as part of the finale itself. So that's why I'm not including Utopia here. Here, I think these 2 episodes, it kind of falls into the same category as the one before, whereas the second episode, Last of the Time Lords, is not quite as strong as the opening episode. I do think overall it is a better second episode than The Big Bang, but still I think one of the biggest reasons for not putting it higher on this list is the way that they basically turned the Doctor into a god. And he had this whole stupid flying scene when he got regenerated and made from being a really old man to his normal youth one again. I was never a fan of that, and that's why it's so low down on this list. Number 5, from Series 8, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. This 2-parter I really love for how dark and deep it goes. You have Clara and the Doctor by the volcano and she's throwing the TARDIS keys into the volcano. Yes, it turns out to be a trap and a test on the Doctor to see how far she'd go. But you have the introduction of Missy, you have the Cybermen, you kind of have Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Really good 2-part finale. Number 4, from Series 1, Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways. Now this one is kind of opposite to a couple of the ones from before. The first episode, not that great. Bad Wolf, it's quite cheesy and quite dated now with the whole game show thing, but you can't deny the last sort of 10-15 minutes of that episode and then the second episode with Parting of the Ways, so high octane, so high energy. It's just got so much going for it, and every time I watch it, I wish we'd had a bit more with Christopher Eccleston. But of course, it ends with a regeneration, and of course, that's got to be quite high up on this list. Number 3, from Series 2, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Now, if you have missed it, I literally have only recently done my review of Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. And yes, there are absolutely flaws with it. I hate the whole love aspect thing of it. But you cannot deny the Daleks and the Cybermen against one another, with the Doctor and his companions stuck in the middle, and a humongously emotional climax to the episode. I mean, like I said, I hate the love aspect of it, but it's such an emotional roller coaster that you just can't help but love it and put it quite high up in this list. Number 2, from Series 4, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Now, I think all 3 of the top 3 are linked in the fact that it is so emotional, and that's what distinguishes them from the bottom 3. Like, the bottom 3 are just so lackluster. With these, there's so much riding on them, so much emotion. Yes, you've got this massive Avengers-style event where you've got all the characters from Doctor Who that you've met over the last 4 years, plus some of the side characters from the spin-off shows. You have Gwen and Yanto and Luke from Sarah Jane Adventures. They're all kind of coming in here, but for me, it is the emotional heartbreak of Donna Noble. I don't think anyone really saw that coming, and even now, that gets me every time. And I know that Donna is coming back for the 60th anniversary. I really, really hope they tread so carefully as to not undo the emotional weight of that episode. And finally, at number 1, World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls. I'm going to be honest, I really didn't think that I would put this as my number 1, but I rewatched it. And first of all, I am so glad that I seem to be one of the very few people who managed somehow to miss the return of John Sim as the Master. Because the shock on my face, I really wish I'd done reactions back then, because that is one of the biggest reactions I've had to anything. Now, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's ever been, prior to that, a multi-master story. And I tell you what, I kind of wish there was some more. Because they played off each other so well. And the cynicism and the narcissism that's coming from both of them, it was a beautiful joy to behold. But then you, of course, have the tragedy of Bill, which occurs in the first minute. You think she's dead. I genuinely didn't think that she was dead, because I thought, why would you kill her off literally that early into the first part of the two-parter? And I knew that Peter Capaldi loved the idea of the Mondasian Cybermen, but still, somehow, I did not manage to twig that they were going to be the focus of the episode, and that Bill would effectively be the first ever Mondasian Cyberman. But it was just wonderful to watch, and such a satisfying conclusion to the series as a whole. It was a bit of a middling series, I'm not going to lie, but it drew it to a real satisfying conclusion. And then, of course, you have a brilliant cliffhanger of David Bradley coming in as the First Doctor. It was just everything you could have wished for. So, that is my ranking of all 13 of the season finales of New Doctor Who. What are your thoughts? Please drop a comment down below. Remember, this video is a thank you to you for helping me to get to 100 subscribers. I cannot thank you highly enough from the bottom of my heart. Now, I am going to be doing a monthly ranking video, and I've already decided on the one for April, and that is the best one-time villains of New Who. But until next time, my name's Kevin. I'm a geek, and you have been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.